Coach Jones, welcome to the basketball podcast.
Thank you, Chris. Great to be on with you.
Great to have you here, Coach. What a year, another great year for you. NCAA tournament and a really good first round game against Texas A&M. Maybe just take us back to the preparation for the Texas A&M game. What are some things that you do to get ready for a tournament game?
The first thing I did was I looked at our last couple of first round games just because we hadn't played anybody at that caliber in terms of athleticism and size in our league. So I wanted to try to get a little bit more familiar with what we did defensively and what was done against us on for our offense. So to have an idea of what to do. And then it's taking it easy. It was such a stress relief after winning the Ivy League championship. We had dominated the league in such a fashion where if we didn't make the NCAA tournament, the season was going to be such a disappointment. So the stress of that obviously was weighing on me. And once that was over, it was like, it's easy time now. We get to the NCAA tournament and have a chance to maybe win a game or two.
Coaches have stress?
Just a little bit at times. And I actually stress less than most guys. But that after winning the league the way we did, and like I said, having to win those two games in 2 days, that was became very stressful.
And your longevity, your success at Yale in particular, and yet this is normal for coaches, isn't it? We still go through that process of doubt, of stress, of trying to figure it out, and all those different moments that make coaching so fun, isn't it?
Oh, that's what brings the energy to it. That's why the fans come out and love it. And if we knew we were going to win before the game started, why would we play the games?
Love it. Absolutely true. So beyond X's and O's, which we'll get into here, but obviously you've fostered a culture of sustained success at Yale. What are some of the core values, principles that you instill within your program to build this level of success?
Well, a couple of things here. Our philosophy is we want to do three things really well. We want to rebound, we want to defend, and we want to share the ball. And that's really important for us to be successful. And I think that was really the turn in our program when we implemented that philosophy so everybody knew what we were playing for. And then the culture of our program is such that a lot of times it takes the younger guys a year or so before they get an opportunity to play. And so when John Poulikitis was a freshman, I remember telling him, because he was frustrated of not playing as much, because he played behind Azar Swain, who was the first team all league player, and was probably second to player of the year in voting. In any event, he played behind him, didn't play a lot as a freshman, and it was hard. And so I talked to him about Alex Copeland, who didn't play a lot when he was a freshman, and Trey Field, that didn't play a lot when he was a freshman. And I told him at some point he was going to lead our team in scoring. And not only did he lead us in scoring, he led the league in scoring. So he needed a year to figure out how to play college basketball. He needed a year to figure out how to play defense. And he did. And it only made him hungrier to become better because he didn't play that freshman year. That is a big part of our program moving forward, where the young guys come in, they struggle somewhat. Sometimes you get an opportunity like Isaac Saliskar played a lot as a freshman this year, played about 20 minutes a game. And some other guys have started in the past, but that's just a rarity in our program.
It's a rarity maybe to the Ivy League right now too, in terms of having players that can develop over time within the same program. Do you see that changing over the next few years for the Ivy League as well?
Well, I can't speak for the Ivy League. I can only speak for my team. I don't know what kind of cultures there are in different locker rooms, but I know ours is really strong, and I suspect that it will sustain itself, where we may have a few guys depart here or there, but for the most part, guys are going to stay at Yale for 4 years and get that degree.
It's such a fun thing for you to be able to coach that way still. And you mentioned passing and the value of passing, and your Yale teams are known for motion offense, conceptual offense. So I'm curious then, how has your implementation of this system over your 25 plus years, particularly in response to the increasing emphasis of the three-point shot and spacing in modern basketball? So how has it changed over the years?
Well, it's changed due to personnel. We're pretty good at making sure that we run our offense based on who we have as players. 2 years ago, we had two tremendous three-point shooters in John Poulikitis and August Mahoney. Now, August graduated, and the starting two guard didn't shoot the ball as well. Starting three-man, John played two, didn't shoot the ball as well as August did. So we had to do some things differently. So we may post up a little bit more. We may duck in a little bit more. We may emphasize offensive rebounding a little bit more. All depends on who we have in our program and what their strengths are, and we try to play those strengths.
So I was going to go there anyways, because you've developed a reputation of being adaptable, of being able to effectively utilize your personnel. So maybe can you walk us through this process of identifying and maximizing individual player strengths? Where does that come? Where does that start, and then where does that evolve within how you do it?
It doesn't take too much to figure out who can do what. I'm also on the USA basketball junior committee for like the 18 and 19 under teams. And like last summer, I went out to Colorado and I didn't know any of the players besides one. McCaffrey's son, Fran McCaffrey's son was out there and I knew him, but I didn't see any of the other kids play before. And I knew some of the kids with reps, but for the most part, I just went down the line and tried to figure out who the 13 guys gonna make the team. I picked 12 out of the 13, and the one guy that made the team that I didn't pick, he wasn't there. He didn't make it till later that next night.
That's not fair. Yeah, you
Yeah,
didn't
so
get the
so it's,
one that wasn't there, coach.
yeah. So it's just one of those things that is cream rises. So I'm always going to know who plays well, and then the kids are going to tell you who they are and what they do. We have something which we call keys to the car, and you take 50. You try to make 53 pointers in 5 minutes, five at each spot: corner, wing, top of the key, wing, corner. And if you make 50, you can shoot from anywhere you want, but you got to make 50 before you're able to move anywhere you want. And if you can make 50, you got the keys to the car. If you can't make 50, you got to sit in the back seat somewhere between a couple of dudes because you're not driving the car. So it's kids are going to dictate what we do and how we do by the virtue of the way they play. And for our staff, it's easy to figure out who does what well and how can we use those strengths.
Have you adapted much offensively over the years in terms of your initial structure and your initial teaching?
It hasn't changed very much. The structure remains the same. It's just what we emphasize a little bit more. Like I said, we may try to drive a little bit more. We may be ducking in a little bit more. We may try to post up a little more. It all depends on who our best players are, and we play those best players.
Decision making obviously is a foundation of your offensive success for the players in particular. So take us through some of the things that you do within practice, within film, some of the different things that you do to be able to help your players make the right decisions for the team.
Yeah, there's a lot of breakdown stuff, 3-on-3, 2-on-2, where you're coming off a ball screen and you're trying to figure out what are my options and what are my best options. Is it the pocket pass? Is it the pull up? Is it the throwback? What is my best option? So we drill that a lot. We play a lot of 3-on-3 early in the season, in the preseason to get our guys acclimated to all that kind of stuff because it's going to break down to making those decisions. And so we try to let our guys understand what it is they need to do, and then when we get into games, based on what your ball screen defense is, that's what we're going to practice for our options. So if you hard hedge, we're going to practice options for that. If you're going to drop, we're going to practice options for that. If you're going to ice, we're going to work on options for that leading up to that game. So our guys are ready for the options that they're going to need to see once the game starts.
It sounds like they're developing solutions to
Well,
be able to solve any problem.
yeah, early on when I got the job at Yale, I talked about teaching our guys how to play, not just teaching our guys plays. And that's what you try to do. And once you teach them how to play, it's like if I teach you I can feed you for a day, or I can teach you how to farm and feed you for life. So I want to teach you how to farm.
Love that. Great analogy. And when does Coach Jones use special plays, say a set play or some type of quick hitter to be able to create an advantage?
A lot of times I do it when we need to have more ball movement. Sometimes when you give the guys an opportunity to have motion offense, they take those opportunities the way they want to. So a lot of times I'll run some kind of set to get someone a shot because I know they're going to be multiple passes in this play to make it run through. So I try to throw those in there when necessary, when I think our guys are getting a little too antsy and trying to score too quickly.
I love that. That's such a great point to be able to make to coaches who run conceptual offenses that sometimes you want to be able to have more passes to be able to include in the possession so people get more touches. But initially, again, so is this false motion type of stuff is you're trying to do, or is it just the intent to be able to get the ball moving?
It's just the intent to get the ball moving from side to side. Like every coach would tell you, you want to get the ball moving from side to side. You want to get paint touches. If you can do those things offensively, you can get good shots. If you can't do those things offensively, it's hard to get good shots unless you have some guys that can just go one-on-one and make plays. And most of us don't have those guys that are going to be able to make enough plays to win a game.
So you referenced some of the keys to offense, and I know another big thing for you, and I'm curious if you use analytics to support and what type of analytics you use to support, but I've heard you talk about it a lot in different types of interviews is your team's offensive efficiency. That seems to be something that matters to you.
Yeah, it certainly does, but I don't use any metrics. There are a couple of guys that are trying to sell me metrics, and I'm like, listen, man, you need to sell it to somebody that's less successful than we are. I like what we do and I like how we do it. These two things right here tell me everything I need to know. And then I have a staff of guys, Matt Kingsley and Justin Simon and Brandon Sherrod, who have been with me for forever. Justin and Brandon both played for me. Matt's been with me for 20 years. So we have a great understanding of what we want. Matt King's a big part of everything we do, as is Justin over the years, just helping me develop our offense and our defense. So again, we just try to make sure we're implementing the right things to help our team be successful.
Do you think being consistently at the same place has helped you with those eyes as well? Because you know what works within your league, within your system?
Yeah, we've got this thing rolling where as long as you have good players and develop good players, then it takes care of itself. We got older guys. You're doing a great job at coaching when the older guys teach the younger guys. Where this guy is trying to teach a freshman or first year kid what to do and how to do. That's when and they're repeating the same words that you've told them over the course of their time at Yale. So that's when you have it rolling. But having a staff that's been together as long as we have, it's been tremendous for us, and it makes all the difference in the role. I have the best staff in the league, and that's why we win games.
Talk to us about the spacing principles in your offense, because that seems to be one of the starting points for any type of motion conceptual offenses. What is the spacing template, and is it changeable throughout the possession?
Well, it certainly changes throughout the possession, but we want to try to remain 15 feet apart as much as possible to create space to be able to cut and move and be able to have multiple options. If you only have one option, if you're always coming to get the ball, then that's easy to defend. I could just top block you and not let you do that. But if you have options to cut back door, and that's the key right there, is to have multiple options within your offense to make the defense think, and then to have the young men be able to move and cut with pace. That's really key as well. If you don't move and cut with pace, you're easy to guard. If you're doing the same thing all the time, you're easy to guard. So mixing up your movements and cutting and moving hard and playing with pace is really important.
Motion offense, of course, famously 25 years ago when you and I first started coaching, or going back even further, it was a lot of screening. And it's a lot more cutting now. I'm just curious your philosophy on screening and some of the things that you do to still develop some of those things that, again, made motion offense so successful back in the day.
Yeah, we are basically a ball screen motion. So we don't really set many off the ball screens. And as a matter of fact, I need to get better at teaching my guys how to set off the ball screens when we break down and run plays, because obviously that's going to be really important to get open, and the timing of that. The timing and getting your feet set, that's really hard to teach, or really hard for some kids to learn. But being able to set good screens and your offense is what helps you get open. So the better screens you set to invoke two guys on the ball, that's when you can bend the team and how you can break them.
Yeah, it's such a big difference in the game nowadays. It's just the off the ball screen is not as significant. And a lot of that has to do with the different ways that we can get paint touches and draw two and be able to play out of two. And for you, ball screen, where are you with the dribble handoff and the philosophy on that?
Yeah, so the dribble handoff is great too, because now that live ball handoff cuts down the different defenses that you can run against it. It's not as quick or as smooth as the ball screen, but it does give that live ball handoff where I can create a keeper and you can shoot behind it. So those are a couple of options that you don't get in the ball screen, and a couple of things that we try to implement as much as we can.
With the consistency, with the consistent style, you mentioned players being able to coach each other to a certain extent, which is beautiful. Consistency within the program, within your staff. What are some things that you then do for yourself to be able to challenge yourself to continue to grow as a coach? As you said, you reference have it going on now.
Yeah, if you think you know it all, that's when you become lost. I'm consistently, like, I look at Instagram all the time, and I see plays on Instagram all the time, and I just send them to myself. And then in the summer, I'll write them down and try to figure out the best looks for our team, something to add something new. And my coaching staff does a great job of that as well. Matt Kingsley and Justin Simon, they'll add new stuff. And they've been with me so long, I have to give them an autonomy to do things on their own that bring stuff to me, so they feel like they're a bigger part of what happens. I think that's key to a coaching staff, is to make sure your staff and your players feel vested. And the best way to do that is to give them some of the good stuff, because everybody wants to do the coaching. Everybody wants to implement the plays. Everybody wants to run what they think is good. So I think that's really important for us, and that's one of the ways that we stay fresh.
Staying on the offensive side, of course, maybe more, but winning all these games, obviously winning time you've referenced is something that's very important to you. This concept of special situations. So can you just elaborate on the importance of special situations and some of the different ways that you develop those concepts within your team?
Yeah, so what we do, we'll probably play 5-minute games, 3-minute games, 2-minute games 4 times a week, especially once the season gets started, to give our guys an opportunity to play to win, right? It's a 4-minute game. And so I can't tell you how many times I've stopped practice and said something to the effect, are you really going to take that shot with 2 minutes left in the game, tie score? Are you really going to make that play with 2 minutes in the game? So just trying to, it's hard to have your guys understand the importance of doing that in practice unless you put something on the end of it like losers run. Like when losers run, it tightens the ship a little bit, but not always. But being able to stop it and coach them through those times and point out to the fact that's a stupid ass shot we just took because we don't need to take a jump shot 4 seconds into the shot clock with 31 seconds on the shot clock. We don't need to take that shot or 26 seconds on the shot clock. We don't need to take that shot because the other teams, they're the ones that need to score. We don't need to score. So just trying to continue to teach through practice. And that's the best way to do it, to play live games and to put something on the line for the most part, like push-ups or sit-ups or sprints can make it really intriguing for our guys and make them want to play and play the right way.
I love that. Obviously, connecting the value of the shot to the value of the game that you're playing and the situation that you're in. But more so, coach, it sounds like you're educating them while they play. With a lot of 2-on-2, 3-on-3, reference to small-sided games, developing decision making, and obviously these special situations as well. Is that something that's always been a value of yours?
I think so. I've been doing this a long time. It's hard to think about what I was doing 20 years ago when I first started coaching. Certainly in the last 10 or 15 years, creating these situations in practice have truly made a difference for us. And one of the reasons why we've been able to be successful. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And we'll continue to try to do this stuff as best we can and teach our kids the best way to play the game of basketball.
With this experience, maybe just sticking with the offensive side, and then we'll go to the defensive side, but what are maybe one or two special situations that you think that as coaches we can do better with? We can consider differently, we can look at differently, maybe some things through your time.
Yeah, I think that taking advantage of pressing situations when when teams press you, that's a special situation. Being organized, that having some quick hitters and some of those outruns where you can get some layups and take away pressure. I think that's really important. Side out of bounds is really important. Like having good possessions on your side out of bounds and being able to get a good shot each and every time. 2-for-1s at the end of the half. Those are really important to do. We'll work all those things in practice. We'll work the foul on the team at the end of a shot clock to try to get a 2-for-1 or try to put a bad shoot on the free throw line. We'll work on offensive rebounding on free throws because that's important as well. All those things that you try to do to try to teach the special situations of the game.
I love it. And you already gave us some defensive ones, so I don't have to ask you about that. But curious then, some of the 2-for-1 situations, what time are you guys going at? What's your value in terms of the time of that?
When there's about 45 seconds on the shot clock.
Yeah.
You want to try to get a 2-for-1 about 45 on the shot clock. That way you'll get a quick one and then there'll be enough time to get another good shot.
Love it. Less quarters, obviously, in the men's NCAA game as well. So you don't have as many of those situations, but can still take advantage of them. And a big piece of that end of game, foul or defend up 3. What's your philosophy on that, coach?
It's funny. Again, I got to be in the game. I don't have a definite. I've been told like you've never seen a team lose when they fouled, but you've seen how many times have you seen a guy knock down a 3? So I'm leaning that way that we want to foul, but you want to foul within 5 seconds or less because you don't want to give them another time. We've won games because people started fouling us too early and it giving us an opportunity to make 2 free throws, foul you or turn you over and then score again. So you got to be really smart about how you're doing that. And then you got to practice it as well. You got to get guys because you don't want an intentional foul because there'll be a official out there just waiting to hammer you. And now you lost the game because you're trying to make one of those plays at the end of the game.
Love it. Great insight in terms of that and agree completely on that. Your defensive philosophy, can you take us through that a little bit in terms of maybe just the base of the defense first, and then we'll get into the adaptability?
Yeah, so we are going to push the ball sideline, baseline, try to keep it out of the middle of the floor. We're all man to man. I play no zone. I may have played 5 possessions of zone all year. It's just not who I am. It's not what I do. My philosophy is if you're going to play a zone, you got to be like Jim Boeheim. You got to believe in it, and it's got to be what you do. Or you're just using the zone to have your bad defense play against somebody's bad offense. That's what you're hoping for. And how many times have you watched a team get into a zone, somebody bangs a three, and then they're right out of it? So it's just a gamble I'd rather not have. I'd rather me put my nose to you, push the ball sideline, baseline, keep you ball off the middle. And then we're in the gaps, we're going to help and recover.
So from there, then are you adapting it in any way based on opponent prep or opponent personnel?
It's really funny. Like we haven't had to make many adjustments, and the adjustments that we would do would be in our ball screen defense in terms of how we're going to guard you. And we were drop coverage the last few years. We used to be a heavy hard hedge team. We may switch every now and again some ball screens, but for the most part, we're going to be in drop. In terms of our gap coverage and how we play that, weak side help if there are flare screens or actions that are being set on the weak side and we're supposed to be in helping the strong side, we may adjust that a little bit, or we may give a quick show and get back to certain kids coming off a ball screen or a dribble handoff. So we'll do things like that just to change up for certain personnel.
And then developing the defense, are you doing a lot of the small sided games as well to be able to develop the defense?
Yeah, we do a lot of shell and a lot of scramble, and we'll do a lot of breakdown one-on-one because the game's going to come down to you being able to guard the guy in front of you. So the less help you need, the better off we are. So trying to teach guys how to stay low, move their feet, not use their hands, stay out of foul trouble, defend without fouling. That's always been a key to what we try to do.
Take us through shell. Are you doing the same shells every day? You mixing them up? You varying them? What's going on with shell?
We normally do it with a build-up where we start with passing and just getting in the gaps on a pass. So stunt the gap and get back and close out. So closeouts are extremely important on a gap team because you're going to get in rotations, and your rotations are going to be met with a closeout. And if your closeout's being out pushing the guy the right way or over pursuing it, the guy's going to go right by you. So closeouts are really important for us. So we'll start with the closeouts. We'll go three on four scramble. Then we'll go 4-on-4 shell where we build up the defense, where we pass it first. Then everybody's able to drive it, but everybody else has got to stand on the drive. You can't cut yet. And then we'll start with a seam-to-seam pass and a pin down, an exchange, and you got to see the ball on the strong side. And then we'll go seam-to-seam pass and then down screen, seam-to-seam pass, flare screen. We'll go with X cuts on one side of the floor. So we'll just build it up. And what I try to do in the preseason is start with that 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 shell action, and then start adding different off the ball screening action. So we end up guarding everything before we see it and we get to our game. So once games start, we have already worked on single double screens or flare screens or wrap screens. We've already worked on it all. And now we're just going to be preparing for the team.
Love a great example of just loading it with challenge and loading it specifically with the challenge you need as you get into specific opponent prep and different things related to that. You mentioned cutting on offense, which you guys do so well, but also you played in a league that's somewhat famous for a lot of cutting. So I'm curious your philosophy on defending cuts and some of the insights around defending cutting, which is also such a big, particularly defending the cut on the drive that now is a part of the modern game.
Yeah, so for us defensively, let's start with on the ball cutting, or same side cutting, like backdoor cuts. The man has to run into your chest. You have to play between your man and the basket. If you don't, if you're above him or below him, you can get face cut or back cut. The guy's got to cut right into your chest on any kind of cut. And as long as you're doing that, you're in great shape. The best team in our league that cut this year, we had two really good ones with Columbia and Cornell. They both did a great job at cutting in the backdoor stuff. So our job was to stay between your man and the basket and then chase them over the top of any kind of screening action and get on their shoulder if they're going to get into a jump shot. So as long as we were doing that, we weren't going to give up both threes and backdoor cuts. We want to take away backdoor cuts. And if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us because you're going to shoot the crap out of it from three, but those shots are going to be contested, we hope. Off the ball screening action, you have to be on line with your man and always have your head on a swivel. So as the ball's being penetrated from the strong side and you're on the weak side, if you know where your man is and you got your head on a swivel, if he cuts to the basket, you're going to be in great place to give him a forearm and keep him out of the paint. If you don't, you're going to get beat for a cut. Well, those cuts are great because, again, offensively, they're great. We have a lot of them in our offense. And because kids, they don't see both. They don't see ball, you man, or that split second they don't, then it's gone. So we try to work on that in practice. And we have had a couple of really good cutters in our program that have helped keep our guys on their toes.
How much do you feel, because I get asked this a lot, how much do you feel you can develop cutters over time, better cutters, better decision makers off the cut, because you referenced having some really good ones?
I've often thought the guys who cut the best are the guys that don't play a lot. So you can develop. So if I'm really, so this is what happens. If you are a guy like John Poulikitis, if he knows if he gets the ball 20 feet from the basket, I can go make a play. If you're not that guy, you got to be a good cutter because that's going to give you an opportunity to score. So a lot of guys that aren't great at doing that, they become great cutters. It's easier for them to become great cutters. It's harder for a great player to become a great cutter. But if you can get a great player to become a great cutter, you have something really special.
So do you think within the program then it's some of those players that don't play initially? Are those the players that develop over time as better cutters as well?
I think so. I think so. Especially if, again, if you're not a great shooter, and again, if you don't have the keys to the car, you better be a cutter, right? And here's the thing, like you also know that if you're not a great shooter, you're not really guarded on the weak side of the floor. Your man is clogging up the paint. So now being able to cut in front of him and be able to get to the basket becomes really important.
Talk to us about, obviously, you've had great success throughout your whole time, but particularly the last few years, you've had incredible success and consistency of success. But maybe talk to us, especially to some of the younger coaches, about the challenges of coaching and kind of the ups and downs of the experience that you've navigated throughout your career.
The challenge in a coach, it comes down to the relationship you have with the student athlete. Kids don't care how much you know until they know you care. That's number one. They got to know you care about them. So once they know you care about them, then it's trying to convince them to do what's best for the team. Every year I talk to my team about, okay, who would, by show of hands, who would sign up for our team to go undefeated non-conference, our team to go undefeated in conference, team to win the Ivy League championship, and to go to the NCAA tournament and win multiple games. Who would sign up for that right now if you didn't play one meaningful minute? Everybody raises their hand because they don't think I'm talking about them. They think I'm talking about the guy next to them because nobody wants to eat that sandwich. That's a terrible sandwich. It's got rhubarb or something on it that you don't like to eat. So trying to convince kids about sacrificing for the greater of the good of the team, that's the most challenging thing you do as a coach. Because we had 13 players on our team last year. A lot of times we have 15, 16, 17 players on our team. Now, you're going to have more disgruntled employees as opposed to happy employees because you're only going to play 8 guys, maybe 9. And then once the conference league season starts, maybe you're down to 7 or 8. So that's more than half your team if you got 16 or 17 guys that don't play. So what are they going to be like in your locker room? If you're winning, it becomes a little bit easier because, who's griping if you're winning? That takes a really special pain in the ass to gripe if you're winning. But if you're losing now, that becomes whoa, why aren't I playing? Like we just lost and Joe Schmo played and I'm as good as Joe Schmo. But if we're winning, there's not a lot you can say. So that's the biggest challenge. It's about playing time and about playing hard. And you got to stay true to your word and play the guys who do the best in practice. If you can do that, and because everybody knows, listen, we chart every practice. So every practice we have, so I know what you shot. I know what you shot from keys to the car. I know how many turnovers you have. I know how many assists you have. I know how many rebounds you got. So it's easy for me to point and say, listen, you're not playing because the 3 guys that play ahead of you are doing this better than you. Now, if I can't say that, I have no credibility. If I can't show them that, if he's doing a better job at rebounding and getting assists, and then how do I keep him from going off the deep end and disrupting practice and disrupting our program? So it's very important to stick to it and understand that you got to play the best players and the kids that play the hardest.
I love your matter of fact philosophy about just about everything, coach, but this one is absolutely there with me. So take us through, how does Coach Jones throughout the whole year communicate? Does he communicate constantly to players about this? What is the communication plan for you to be able to communicate and deal with this most challenging thing?
Yeah, sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes it's not enough, and sometimes you don't have to do anything because again, guys see, but you try to have. I have a meeting with every player when they get on campus. Then I have a meeting with every player before our first game. Then I have a meeting with every player before we go home for break. I have a meeting with every player when they come after break. I have a meeting with every player right before conference starts. And then beyond those meetings, the door's always open. If you want to talk about anything, feel free to knock on the door, come in and we can talk. So they'll talk to me, they'll talk to my assistant coaches, trying to figure out where they are. We watch film with our guys constantly to supplement what we do in coaching on the floor. So they see themselves in practice and games because we film every practice. So there's so much footage and there's so much information out there and you're sharing that with your guys constantly, that really helps in them understanding who they are. And so as a coach, if they're not playing, you have to tell them what they need to do to play. Give them the blueprint. So we had a young man and I was asking him, listen, I need you to be more of a facilitator if you want to play point. You need to be more of a facilitator. You need to get more guys involved. You need to set up our offense. You need to be more of a leader. You need to communicate more. His best practices were practices where he just bully balled and scored the ball. It's not what I needed. I don't need that. I told you what I needed and you didn't do it. That's why you didn't play. It's not rocket science. Like I asked you, now if you can't do that, then we need to have a conversation about you not doing it. Now, for me, it was like you didn't want to do it. You wanted to prove something else that I didn't need proof.
That's so interesting that he wanted to prove that he could do this, even though you said that. And I'm sure that goes through a player that me doing this so well is going to trump what you want.
Yes, because I never looked at it that way. I don't know why. I told you what you needed to do and you agreed with it. And then you went out and did something else. So that's on you. It's not on me.
I love those agreements. They're a great agreement until they start to do something different. So maybe Coach, take us through, that's such a great example. Thank you for sharing that. Take us through some of these things that maybe you do within practice, and particularly with practice film to help players learn. Forget about the challenges we just talked about, but how do you use practice film to help players develop and learn?
Let's just talk about the young guys defensively, like your footwork and what you're doing that way. So we'll show you several times where like ball screen defense. We want to get into the ball and over the top of every ball screen. So I had a young man and he's going underneath every ball screen. So that's if you go underneath every ball screen, the post player doesn't know what you're doing. He doesn't know how to help you because he's looking at the flat hedge or hard hedge or whatever it is, whatever defense we're in. And your job is to go over the top and chase. And if you don't do that, well, he doesn't know what you're doing and adds confusion to what's going on in our defense. So we'll show you clips of what you're doing that way. When your man cuts through, are you still ball you man? Are you still seeing both? If you're on the weak side, are you ball you man? Are you still seeing both? Is your head on a swivel? So we'll just show you clips of that stuff and what you're doing, or our transition defense as a team. You're going to try to go for a steal in the front court and we're getting beat in the full court. Sprint back, you jog back. So this, again, whatever it is that they're doing, we can break it down and synergy is great. And like I said, our practice stuff is great. There's so much film that we have and so much information to help these kids become better.
It's something that's changed a lot, I know, in coaching. We just have so much access to information that sometimes it can become too much. So take us through your process of filtering the information so that your team gets the most relevant information.
We'll play a game, so to speak. And what I'll do is there's a reason why we won a lot of games in our league. We were 13-1 in conference play. So there wasn't a lot of negative stuff that ended up making us lose, but there was negative stuff that could have. We'll show like guys blocking out or something, whatever it is that I want to concentrate on for our next game coming up, or something that egregious happened in the game before. I'll break it down. I'll show a dozen clips of that to the team before practice. So we'll sit in our film room, we'll watch a dozen clips of that, and then we'll work on whatever that is that day in practice. So if it's blocking out, we're going to do some blockout drills for sure. If it's sprinting back on defense in transition, we're going to do some transition drills for sure. If it's weak side help or not being a gap, we're going to do make sure we're going to point that out when we get to our shell.
It's such a simple example, like the film that you show before practice, you do something in practice to work on it. But I know that sometimes a disconnect is that we don't necessarily follow feedback with action as coaches. We give great feedback, but then they don't get a chance to apply it. So I love that connection.
Yeah. I think that's really important as a coach and as a leader to make sure you're doing that sort of thing. So your young men understand or young women understand what it is of why you're showing this. Why are you showing this if we're not going to work on it?
You've had a few examples of this, but you're going into next year. You've had an incredibly successful year this year, and you've referenced it a few times, the pressure of being successful, which is a real thing. And we sometimes only think about the pressure of having a bad year or an off year. So taking us through this process, what are some things that you're thinking about getting your team ready for next year to be able to climb that mountain again?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't thought a lot about next year yet, just because, again, you need to relax and just smell the roses sometimes and enjoy yourself and get back into it.
What are you
But
doing to relax right now then, Coach?
I'm actually reading Sonny Vaccaro's book, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
beautiful.
Yeah. In any event, what you try to do, what I'm going to try to do next year is to just continue to build upon the success that we had. Continue to put out the same platform that we had. And then to try to figure, I got four new guys coming in next year, and I have to figure them all out and figure out what they're really good at and what they're not. I think that when you recruit a kid, you have some idea who they are and what they do, but until they get in your practice, it's hard to know exactly everything they can do or not do. We'll be identifying that for sure. And then we have a lot of guys coming back that were successful last year for us, and we looked for their leadership. And we had a great workout before last week with three forwards: Nick Townsend, Casey Simmons, and Riley Fox, three of our returning forwards. And they just did a great job at working hard, communicating the toughness, and they have a great sense of self and they have a great sense of team. And it was just awesome to be around these three men. They're three guys that everyone would love to coach. So I'm just excited about the people I'm going to have in a locker room, and I get a chance to work with them. And after the season was over, NCAA or Ivy League rule, we couldn't work with our guys for 2 weeks after the season. So I started jonesing for my players. Like I went around the locker room, like looking for my guys to see where they were. And I saw one of the seniors that are graduating. He told me everybody was upstairs in the weight room. So I ran up to the weight room, and it was one open lifts that they could come up if they wanted to or not. And I had 90% of the team up there. So I got a chance to fist pump the guys and get a smile with most of them. And that's what's great. Winning games are really important, and it's a lot of fun. And going to NCAA tournaments like Christmas morning for a 5-year-old. But really the most important thing through all this are relationships you have with your young men, and to watch them grow and develop over the years with you and when they leave you. That's what's really fun.
Well, it's a beautiful reflection of the season and obviously the success that your players put in and you put in, that you still wanted to be around each other right after the season. That's generally a good thing, right?
No question. Like again, I have some of the best people on the planet that I get to work with every day. And when you don't, you miss your guys. I tell my guys all the time, I love every single one of them. I don't like them every day, but I love every single one of them.
Coach, you referenced this a little bit, but coaching at a school like Yale, Ivy League, you're dealing with really interesting human beings that are doing some really cool things beyond basketball as well. Has that always been something that's been exciting to you to be able to learn about some of the things they're doing academically and see some of the things that they're possibly working towards in their futures?
It's not something that you think about. It's something that's amazing when you have those conversations, but it's not really, to be honest with you, something I really thought much about. Our kids have three priorities: their family, their faith, their academics, and basketball. Once they take care of those three, then they can branch out and do some other things. So it's neat when they do. And it's neat to understand some of the things the guys do academically. The smartest kid I ever coached was Matt Townsend. His brother Nick is playing for me right now. He might be the second smartest guy that I ever coached. And Matt is a doctor. He was a straight A student at Yale in macrobiology, and just a brilliant person. I wrote a letter of recommendation for him to go to Harvard, and he corrected my letter of recommendation and tried to make me feel good about it. I go, Matt, listen, I'm okay with your corrections. If you feel that's right, I'm okay. I know who I am. So it's just amazing to be around some of these brilliant people and to watch them grow. And again, it's really amazing when they graduate and what they do with their lives.
It's beautiful. And mental health, mental well-being of players, certainly paramount nowadays. Talk to us a little bit about that process, especially at school where you're balancing academics and basketball and those four things that you mentioned.
Yeah, we really haven't had many issues. Now, certainly we've had some outliers where some guys have had to meet with somebody about their mental health, and we certainly are going to be aware of that. And as a coach, you have to just be on the lookout and make sure you're aware of where your kids are. I remember we were getting ready to play North Carolina, and I had a young man. We were doing it was a shoot around. It was a practice the day before, and we're in a gym, and I watched him take 4 shots, and none of them hit the rim. And I'm like, I was just really getting ready to snap on him. But then I looked in the young man's face, and I knew something was wrong. So I pulled him aside and I go, what's going on? How you doing? He goes, I think my grandmother's gonna die. So it was one of those things that it has to start with us first to be able to recognize where your young men are. And once you recognize, then you can seek help and try to help them seek help. But that's something you have to do as a leader, be able to see your people for who they are and help them as best you can.
Absolutely. And a great example as well. And sustaining success, obviously, a lot of that has to do with staying in a place. And I famously asked Greg Campy this last year, just talking about his sustained success at a place. Talk to us first about being at one place, not always a choice, but a choice. And talk to us about the process of being able to keep it fresh for you in terms of being able to do it every day.
Well, every year is fresh. Every year is different, and none of them are the same. They're different journeys that you take with your team. And like this team we had last year, we went 13-1 in the league. I can't tell you that was one of my best teams I've ever coached. I don't know that it was. Right? I don't know that it was. At some point, I'll be old and gray, and then I don't have any hair, so it'll be hard to tell. But I'll be old anyway, and I'll look back upon these years and try to figure out who was better than whom. But I can't tell you that this team was any better than anybody else, but it's a journey that you take that's different every year. So that is fresh. And then the kids keep you young. You know, what they talk about, how they talk, the music they listen to, that helps keep you young and fresh and challenged about what you're doing. So it doesn't make a difference where you are. If I were to jump to 26 different schools in the 26 years I've been at Yale, it wouldn't make a difference. It's still fresh for me because it's a new group of kids. It's not the same as it's going to be. It wasn't the same as last year. So I have new challenges to try to figure out and to fix, and new kids to try to figure out and to help become the best versions of themselves.
Love that, coach. And advice to any young coaches out there starting their journey in terms of some of the things that you reflect on now and say, I'm really glad I did this because it helped.
I tell you what, I look at, we're in a transition period of college basketball right now. It's not what it was. It's not what it's going to be. We're in transition. So I'm worried about that transition of what it's going to be. I think that because we're taking care of the student athlete to the tune of millions of dollars, some of them, we've lost all the lessons that college basketball and basketball in general is there to teach. Fighting through adversity, sticking together, sticking to a commitment. It's become now more about me than we. When I went to college, I had my head coach, Doc Sowers, talked about we go, not ego. It's not about you and your ego. It's about we go. And to try to make kids understand that in today's time is really challenging. And we lost a kid that was committed to us. He's going to go to another school. And what he doesn't understand is what he lost. He may have 50 different college teammates in his career, 50 different ones. He may have 40 different ones, something like that he's going to have, as opposed to having 20 and guys that for life and that are in your weddings and that are meaningful to you, a coach that you'll invite to your wedding because you had that special a relationship with. You're missing out for money. And the money, like now, the levels of the money is so high, it's hard to pass up, but not for everybody. Not for everybody. And for those that it isn't for everybody, those are the ones that I feel really sad for, because they're not getting out of this what they need to, not what it was intended. So I feel for all the young coaches, but what someone told me was with the young guys, this is all they know. And I'm sad for that because this is not what I signed up for. And I know it's the wave of what we're doing, and some of it's positive, but most of it's not.
I couldn't agree more with that sentiment about just not getting to sustain something through a group of players, a group of people with a common purpose, and the different things that come with that team over not just 1 year, but multiple years of playing with certain people or being around certain people. And you already see that at the grassroots level too, coach. There's very few players that are playing on the same team for very long.
It's the journey. It's the journey you take that matters. And again, I'm saddened for young men that can't see that and for parents that don't understand it.
Well, and again, you reference it. They just don't know it. They don't know it. And that's amazing. That's certainly been a part of my coaching over the last few years in grassroots. It's just like things that I assume players know. They don't know so many things, from team behaviors to obviously accountability to all these different things. Because again, who's teaching it if they're jumping from place to place?
Yeah, no question.
Coach Jones, I gotta say, I'm so excited to finally have you on. I've been such an admirer of your success and your program, the way your teams play, the way your players act, and all those different things. Is that normal? Do you feel that people value what you're doing and how you're doing it as much as they should be?
It's interesting. I think that they devalue it for whatever reason. They think it's easy to do or whatever it may be. It's hard to win anywhere. And I look at where we are and what we do and try to win at the level. It's one thing to win within your conference. It's another thing to be able to win it outside your conference. For us to go into the NCAA tournament 2 years ago and beat an Auburn team that was probably by Ken Palm, they were like number 4 in the country. And that's nothing short of a miracle to be able to go out and do that and to be able to even compete with them. I saw a stat that someone posted on Instagram that Auburn spent before NIL now, like $13.6 million on basketball, and Yale spent 1.4.
Wow.
If you think about, that's not a business model, one would think that the other one could outweigh it, but we were able to do that. And we went into this year's tournament and against Texas A&M, and we lost a game by 9 points, and we didn't play well. And it's funny because I remember walking off the floor and everyone rooting for us, they seemed a little disappointed that we actually lost. And we've got our program to the point that you lose an NCAA tournament and you're disappointed. And you're supposed to be, but not at Yale in terms of what the history has been for our program. So I'm very proud of what we've been able to build. I've had tremendous kids. I've had a great coaching staff. Matt Kingsley, Justin Simon, and Brandon Sherrod have all helped me and done a great job. So that's been a delight for me. But I look at from people from the outside, I think they have no idea what it takes to be able to win successfully without any NIL and kids having to pay for schools without scholarships and having a transfer portal where anybody can go anywhere when they want. So it's great that we're able to be that successful, but I don't know that many people really understand what it takes.
It's incredible perspective. Thank you for sharing that. And it just made me think, and I don't want to take away from what you said, but it made me think about, it still comes down to somewhat, I put my offense against your defense and your defense against my offense. And throughout the whole year, what we do matters.
Yeah.
And it matters, right? Despite the money, when you get into that one game versus Auburn, or you beat Baylor a long time ago, or whoever you play Texas A&M this year and whoever you play next year, that one game, it comes down to how you do things.
Yeah, I really believe too that there is a world where there are young men that still care about the important things in life in basketball. Parents still care about the importance about things in life in basketball. My assistants and I, we just have to find those kids.
Absolutely. And I'm cheering for you to do that, coach. And I can't thank you enough for sharing the game with us. Just tremendous to be able to hear your insights into the game. Thank you.
You're welcome, Chris. No problem. Happy to be on.